We're going to start the next drawing, which is 3-56 control arm, and this is arcs and circles. So if you're looking around the drawing, you're going to see a number of circles and then again arcs. One of the things that we're going to talk about is obviously the difference between radius and diameter and locating center marks, which I'm showing you right here. And that's the main thing. You have to locate your center marks before you can actually draw an arc or circle. And then understanding what the dimensions are telling you, either a diameter, which goes the entire distance across a circle, or radius, which is telling you that this goes halfway across the circle or arc. Now the other thing you have to remember is the drawing tool you're going to be using, which is a circle template. All these circles are set up as diameter, and the other thing they have are markings to indicate where the center marks will help you line up the circle to draw. So every circle on the template has 4 markings to help you line up the circles or arcs properly. Now looking at the drawing and reverse engineering how to start and where to start, we're going to try to center this drawing, and I'd like to center this right in the middle of this channel. And this measurement from center point to center point is 2.5 inches. So we're going to break this apart. Okay, so we know that half of 2 is 1, and if you look at your cheat sheet, half of a half is 1/4. So once I set up the A-size sheet and create that center X on this drawing sheet, we're going to measure 1.25 inches to the right, and then measure another 2 inches to the right, and then 7 inches forward. And that's going to help us set up most of our center points. And this is the first thing we have to do, is set up our center points. So we need to know the center of a circle or an arc, and obviously the radius or diameter of that arc. Now finding your top 2 center points, which is the 1-inch radius, we need to break up 4.5, divide that by 2, which is 2.25. And we'll show that later on in setting up this drawing. The other thing we're looking for is how you transition line segments into these arcs. This is probably the most challenging part of this drawing, is making sure there's a smooth transition going from an arc into a line segment back into an arc or a circle. And we're going to be very picky on how we evaluate this drawing once it comes in. So again, like we usually do, I'm going to zoom out here. We're going to start by creating that center mark on the page, going from corner to corner. And then we'll be using our T-square and triangle to create these center marks. So we're just going to go right across the page, making sure the T-square is lined up on the steel edge. And now we can begin. So I've just created this point right here. So again, I broke that in half, 2.5 at a half, 1.25. So I'm going to measure 1 4/16 or 1 1/4 to the left, and then the same distance to the right of the center mark. And at that point, I use my T-square and triangle combo and create my construction lines. Now eventually these are going to become center points for our circle template. Now once I've created that mark, I'm going to move over to the right another 2 inches and then 7 inches forward as the drawing indicates. And this drawing usually sets up pretty quickly. The challenging part is drawing the circles and transitioning the line segments into the arcs. Okay, once all of our vertical center lines are made, we're going to work on creating the horizontal center marks for the top and bottom arcs. So we broke that up at 2 1/4, and I'm going to go right off the center. So I'm going to measure 2 1/4 inches up, and then 2 1/4 inches down, and use my T-square to create that center mark. Okay, now looking at the activity sheet, try to recognize what the dimensions are telling you. We're going to start right in the middle here. This is a tough dimension to recognize. This is telling you that that channel is 1 inches wide, which means it's a 1 inch diameter because it's the entire distance across. So I'm going to locate the 1 inch circle, and I'd like you to notice how you line up the circle template with the construction lines. Pay no attention to the paint on my fingers. Now this, I'm creating an arc, so I do not need to draw the entire circle. I'm just drawing a portion of the circle. And I'll slide over to the other side and do the same thing, trying to keep the pencil perpendicular to the work. And this is a construction line at this point. Okay, so you've created 2 arcs. Now we're going to connect those with a line segment. We want to be really careful just to get to the very top of the circle, which is known as the quadrant point. Now we want to make sure that you're lining up the quadrant points, and I'm going to purposely make a mistake here. You can see how that line segment does not line up with the quadrants, and this is going to affect how the drawing is finished later on, affecting how it's evaluated. So we're looking for something like this. We'll move on to the endpoint. This center mark will be your setup for both the circle and the arc on the outside of the control arm. This is telling you that the inside circle is 1 1/2 inch diameter. So let's locate that. And we'll set that right up on our center marks, making sure the 4 quadrants are set up on the center mark, and you're going to create the entire circle, again, construction line. Now this same center mark accounts for the 1 1/4 radius. Again, this is radius, so you need to look for the 2 1/2 inch diameter circle. So we're going to multiply this by 2. That becomes 2 1/2. Look for that on our center circle template. Now this one, again, you're just drawing the arc. Now if I look at the activity sheet, this is the same radius, which means it's the same diameter circle template. So we'll slide forward and create this arc right now. And we're left with the top and bottom arcs. Again, we're using our circle template to make those. It's telling you that it's a 1 inch radius, meaning you're going to be using the 2 inch diameter circle on your template. And we're just creating a portion of the circle. Slide down, do the same thing on the bottom. 2 inch diameter, portion of the circle, which is the arc. And you'll see in a minute how we transition these arcs into each other. So you're going to line up the T-square. You're probably going to have to adjust it on your own off of the steel edge to make sure these line segments match up perfectly with the arc, circle, quadrants. And that's going to help you later on when you darken with object lines. So we're going to show you a few things to look for when constructing this. Right here you'll see how the line segment at the bottom does not line up with the arc, so this will affect how the drawing is evaluated. So you want to take the time to make sure you line up your tools to make sure these segments and arcs transition into each other. And the final step before darkening is creating that 45-degree angle or chamfer on the top and bottom. So you're using your 45-degree triangle. You're going to locate 1/2 inch in, and you're going to use your triangle and T-square combo to create that construction. And again, once you do this and repeat it at the bottom, make sure you check with the instructor before darkening. Good luck.